to talk about what has recently scared the ever-living crap out of me. And it's going to be fun. I took a class, you know, you got your CE coming up every couple of years. I don't have to have anything like completely done until I think next year. But if I have a day that I kind of unexpectedly have open, like I was supposed to go somewhere or do something, it all fell apart. So I just took one of those online CE classes, and I took the broker's responsibility class. And with the broker's responsibility class, this is something that you got to take. I highly recommend that everybody take that class. It is just too good. Sorry, I'm looking for something I wanted to show y'all too. It is just too good not to take. It is absolutely terrifying. It's not fun. It's not, it's good lessons. It kind of shifts the way you think about it. And it allows you to just CYA a little bit better, I guess is what I'm looking at. It allows you just to kind of think through what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you're doing it. And I kind of just wanted to share what I saw when I was doing this. So, and the important things that I'm honestly taking away from it. So overall, the broker's responsibility class is about understanding all the legalese and basically how people get in trouble and how to prevent yourself from doing that. That's one of the big things about it. That's what you want to know going forward. And I apologize, I'm stuttering a little bit because I'm really looking for something right now because I cannot find it. Because I wanted to show this to you, but sorry, I can't believe I can't find this right now. But it was a great class, so I highly recommend taking it. The class that I took was from a lady named Candy, and it was $60. And guys, it was 4 hours. It was all online, and it was a super easy class. Okay, I've got the email here. So they've got 2 more coming up, which I need to take as well because I haven't taken it this time around. Let me share my screen so we can all see what I'm talking about here. All right, Joey, can you see my screen? Yeah, cool. All right, so this is what I took. I took Agent e-Learning and Candy Cook. So she's got Texas Legal 1 and 2 coming up. I will probably take these with her because she was really easy to take the class with. I enjoyed it. It was a little bit more interactive than a lot of the online classes I've taken where you just kind of sit there and stare at the screen and let somebody talk at you. She was definitely a little bit more interactive, a little bit more fun. And what I liked about it is she had a lot of real stories to tell, which was really, really interesting. So if you get a chance, this is where I took it, not recommending. I don't get paid, nothing like that. I'm just telling you where I did it. And again, I would really do this. I would really, really check this out. Now, the one thing I was trying to show you, if y'all can see on this one, is I'm looking for the complaint overview manual company. She showed us on the Trek website where you can go in and find the disciplinary actions that people have had. There we go. See if I can find it this way. Yeah. So it'll actually go through and show you the disciplinary actions that people have gone through recently, which is kind of interesting. But you can just go through and read. Respondent failed to submit a distant education reporting for the commissioner located in the 10th day, right? It was kind of interesting because she would go through there and show us some of the things that they did. So you can see if anybody makes a mistake or if you want to vet another agent that you might be having problems with, we can definitely go through here and you can look it up. Or if you ever get in trouble, you're going to be in here and it's going to be explaining to you what you did wrong. So he did not exceed 12 hours on his training. So as you can see, like the first couple ones right here, guys, which is number 1 is don't screw around with training. Applicant conducted brokerage activity without a license. Applicant discharged, right? Okay, that one's pretty funny. Incompletely supervisor sponsored salesperson. So go through this when you have time. She was really funny because she told us that she was reading this at night. Like she would just kind of go through this and see where everybody else screwed up to make sure that she didn't screw up. But I'm not going to go through everything. I'm just going to go through the things that I was like, holy crap, that's kind of a big one. Not necessarily that I do it, but that I could see myself doing these problems. So the first one was one that I put up on the Facebook page, which had to do with lead-based paint addendum. So I put that up the other day, and I thought this was interesting because for a simple mistake in dating on this piece of paper, you can actually get a $3,500 fine. And the reason why is you got to pay very close attention to the verbiage because everything in here is very, very legal. So if the buyer dates before the seller dates this form, that is a $3,500 fine, excuse me. That is because in this, the brokers inform the sellers and sellers' obligations. It also says that the seller has provided the information somewhere in here, and I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. So I thought that was really interesting because literally what'll happen sometimes, and I've seen it happen before, is that we'll notice that it's built after 1978 too late, or before, excuse me. And the buyer's agent will actually send one of these over to you, and it's already signed by their seller. If that's the case, you cannot accept it. You need to fill out a new one for yourself and send it out. One of the things I always do is if I know the house was built 478, is that I'll have them sign this and I'll put it in the associated documents in my MLS listing. That way there's no question. And if they do have any records or anything like that, then you post those as well with it. So that way it's all one complete packet. So kind of an interesting thing that I caught during this one. And a lot of the fines come from those sorts of things. That people are not paying attention and doing things in the right order. You have to remember first and foremost that TREC does not support the real estate agents of Texas. TREC does not support the brokers. I say that a little bit of jest, but that's the dead honest truth. TREC's job is to protect the public. We are considered the smartest, most knowledgeable, best people in the world in real estate, and apparently we have every answer to everything because we're licensed, which is far from true, but that's how they consider it. And if anything is out of line that is not in favor of the client, you will be considered the problem and you will get fined. And most of these fines are insanely heavy. And so that's why I encourage you to go through and see what disciplinary actions have been had. And then they'll actually say what the fines levied are if you go through these. So take a minute, kind of go through it. It's really interesting. So let's go back to all the things that I noticed. First and foremost, I posted this.
I'm sorry, I just had a real quick question. How do these get reported? Like what, is it the buyer's agent that's reporting it? Is it, who's catching these errors?
Anybody can report it.
Okay.
TREC will go through and audit and go through things and see if they can find it. Most of the time if they go through an audit and there wasn't a complaint, you'll get like a minor disciplinary action or just kind of get written up. But if you see here, our complaint form is available online for your convenience. So literally TREC represents the public. So anybody, you, me, brokers, consumers, whoever, if anybody feels like they've been wronged, you can fill out this TREC complaint form and send it in. So with that being said, though, my main takeaway from this entire game, the entire class, is you have to play this game of cover your ass, CYA, all the time. Paperwork tends to be where everybody gets in trouble. Paperwork tends to be where everybody gets in trouble. And that includes things like text messages, emails, all of that stuff. So just in case you didn't know, all of your emails for any transaction, every bit of communication needs to be saved somehow. If you have an @Whiteline Realty email address, that runs through a Google server, and you can opt to archive all of your emails, which is what I do. All of my emails that come to Colin@Whiteline Realty are automatically archived, so that way I never lose them. Now, after a while, you're going to end up having to buy more space on their server, but it's relatively cheap. But I'd recommend to do that. The other thing is, guys, is there's a 4-year statute of limitations. So if you've got to keep your text messages to your clients for 4 years. If you have an iPhone, which I do, it'll actually archive all that stuff. You may have to get additional space on their server, but it'll let you do that. An interesting piece of advice was to let everything go at 4 years in 1 day. So the minute it hits 4 years, you can delete everything behind that, because if something does come up later and you do have evidence for or against you, you have to provide it. But if you don't, there's a 4-year statute of limitations. So guys, keep every single email, keep every single text message. Just a good idea, just in case there becomes a he said, she said thing. I will tell you this right now, no matter how good of a relationship you think you have with the client, money will ruin that relationship. And money ruins just about any relationship if the money's big enough. So with that, what I mean by that is, yes, maybe you had this great client and everything was great and everything went off, and then all of a sudden it turns out that their sewer line is broken for 4 feet and they have to dig up their entire front yard, and it's going to cost them $30,000 to fix it. They are going to be clutching at straws for somebody to pay that $30,000. If they engage the services of a lawyer, I know how lawyers work. They're going to be looking at everybody involved in that transaction. They're going to be talking to the inspector that inspected the house. They're going to be talking to the real estate agent. They're going to be looking at the seller's disclosures to see if that was in there. They're going to pick apart every single solitary piece of paper, every email communication, everything, because they're going to say, well, I told Joey on this day that I felt like the toilet was flushing weird when we went and looked at it. And if you don't address it, if you don't have some sort of CYA, you've got to take everything seriously. The stories that came through there were just absolutely terrifying. So do what you can. You have to play defensively whenever you're working with people. You have to think about every bit of your paperwork, which I know we're getting lazy. I know it's easy to get lazy on. There were so many people that had been fined for failure to provide an IABS. You have to have an IABS signed at first. I mean, every single time you have to have them. Guys, it's too easy to do, and it's really easy to forget. No signed IABS, that's problematic. So just be careful. Make sure you're on top of your paperwork. Make sure you save your communication. Those are going to be the first two. And lastly, one thing that I learned a long time ago is it's really hard to be nervous if your mind's on service. Meaning we act as a fiduciary to our clients. Our job is to serve to the best of our ability our client. It's not about you making the most money. It's not about you finding a way to raise your commissions. It's not about anything like that. Your job is to do what is right by the client. Everything else is secondary. Even if you get stepped on in the process, you kind of, most of the time you need to do that. I've heard of people getting in trouble even recently because they were trying to make sure that they didn't lose any money on their transaction versus just allowing the client to take care of things. And that got them in trouble. And I'm not going to get into details of it, but that's the truth of it. Some other things that I thought were really interesting that I learned, seller's disclosures. Real big on seller's disclosures. Seller's disclosures, if you are representing a seller, you need to have this filled out as soon as you get your exclusive right to sell or whatever agency form you're filling out. You have to have that done first. The second thing that I am very big on is I explain to my client and exactly like this. I hand them the seller's disclosure. The client gets to choose whether they want to use the TREC seller's disclosures or the TAR seller's disclosures, the Texas Association of Realtors. For those of y'all don't know, there are two different seller's disclosures, both of which are applicable. It does not matter which one you want to use. The TREC one is a little less encompassing. There's a little less information on it. The TAR one is a little bit heavier. There's more pages to it. It covers more things. It is not up to you to pick which one you want to do. You give them to the clients. You say, hey, you can pick whichever one you want to do, okay? But I cannot touch this piece of paper. I cannot put one check mark on it. I cannot sign. I cannot date. I cannot do anything. So what happens on my listing appointments is I go in, we do all this stuff. I fill out the exclusive right to sell. I have them sign IABS. I have them sign everything I need. And then I leave them with the seller's disclosures. And I say, hey, I need you to fill this out. I need this back in the next day or two, because it's going to take me a few days to get this property listed properly, right? So I've got a little bit of time, but I do not list any properties that do not have the seller's disclosures at the time that I push submit on the MLS. They goes in with me every single time. And ladies and gentlemen, you do not get to pick which seller's disclosure they use. It's up to the client. And number two, you have to be hands off with that one. They can't leave anything blank. If they leave something blank, whatever, you got to go back to them and say, I need you to correct this. So that's a really big one. And one of the cool things that somebody brought up that I have not investigated yet, but I will be here shortly, is this little document right here. This is a way to digitally supply them with the seller's disclosures. I thought this was really cool because it does track and it does show, kind of like DocuSign or whatever you want to use. It allows them to send over and do the entire thing online, but it shows that you send it to their email address, when they submitted it, when they filled it out, and it's kind of a nice way to keep track of it. It's called Seller Shield, so you can get to sellershield.com. You can sign up for free. I know that they have some upgraded options, but I know you can use the free service for a pretty good amount of time, which is kind of cool to have a free service on here. And it takes care of the seller's disclosures for you, which I thought was a really cool idea. So I will be exploring this one. I haven't done it. I can't tell you that Everything in here is absolutely perfect. But so go check this one out, sellershield.com. So take care of your seller's disclosures. Make sure you don't touch it. And because seller's disclosures are the number one reason why people get sued through real estate transactions. Either they fib about something or they don't tell the truth. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is also your responsibility. Let's say you walk through the house and you notice that 2 windows are broken. And then they write on the seller's disclosure that all the windows are in perfect shape. It is now, if it is readily available and able for you to see, and you should have seen it, you need to tell them, hey, you've got 2 broken windows. I need you to fix this. Hey, your wall's falling down and you said it's not. Hey, I noticed this is actually in the 100-year floodplain and you said it wasn't. Okay, check the seller's disclosures as well, especially against the things you know. Now, guys, don't be terrified because no, you didn't go flush every toilet in that house. So if a toilet doesn't work and they said that a toilet doesn't work, you can say, I didn't know that. That's a reasonable thing to say that I didn't understand, or I didn't check every light switch in the house or whatever. That's not really your job, but if there's something that's just gleaming, you need to say something, okay? So seller's disclosures, man, lots of people getting sued over this, lots of people doing things. So I thought this was a great way to do it. This will not allow them to skip anything. So I'm definitely going to start using this from now on. I don't have any listings. I got a lot of buyers right now. So going forward, another one that scared the absolute crap out of me. And I have to tell a story, my story before this. My wife's godmother is a realtor down in Corpus Christi. She's a very, very successful realtor. She does a ton of business. She's like one of the top realtors down in Corpus. So whenever something comes up down in Corpus, I refer to her, which is you know, she's great for referrals for people that want to buy houses down there. She knows the market. And remind me, I'm going to hold on a second. I need to write that down because I don't want to forget. So, but she had this really interesting situation because she lost the listing. And she was telling me this story, and I didn't think much of it at the time, but it hit me like a ton of bricks. The photographer that she uses to shoot her listings does not sell her the photos. The agent, or the photographer, sells her the rights to use those photos, not the photos themselves, okay? It's a very interesting thing because it's a very different deal. And she was telling me this story. She's a talker, so she's fun to listen to because it's a lot of good information, but that she lost the listing and the new agent and her client, her ex-client, wanted her to surrender those photos. She said, I don't own the photos. I was only allowed to use them for your MLS listing. If you want the photos, you need to talk to the photographer and pay for it. What that is discussing is something called copyright issues. There are an amazing amount of people that have gotten busted for copyright issues. And if you go look at the Trek thing, you'll see what I'm talking about. You cannot use other people's photos, other people's listing photo. You can't copy and save. You can't do anything like that. If you are using photos, documentation, flyers, anything like that, it has to be yours. You have got to pay for it. I use Fiverr.com a lot for, let me show you my screen. This is a good little trick that I do. I use Fiverr.com a lot to make flyers. If I go to Fiverr.com, it's really important that when I'm on Fiverr.com, let's say if I'm going to make a flyer, let's see, real estate leads. I don't even know what all this stuff is. Logo design. So this is an interesting one. I bet you this one will have it in here. So when you go to order a logo, let's say I'm going to make me a standard logo. No, that one doesn't have it. But some of these will say that you can use for business, or we're selling you the actual thing. Guys, if you've got photos or flyers or anything, make sure that you have the exclusive right to use these things. Because the story that happened in my class, this was a lady, she was a broker. She picked up a listing. The sellers said, hey, we have professional photos of our house, and gave them to her. She didn't ask any questions. She posted them on her website. She turns around and gets sued by the photographer saying they did not have a right to use those photos. She ended up having to settle out of court for $25,000. $25,000 settlement out of court. She was getting sued for like $2 million for copyright infringement. And she literally had no idea. That scares the crap out of me because that is totally something I would do. Somebody gives me photos. These are great photos. I would use them. I learned the lesson there. Now I've never gotten in trouble for it. I don't think I've ever even done that, but it sounds like something I would do. So be careful. Make sure that you have the rights to use the photos. Make sure you can provide receipts showing that you paid for it. Make sure if there is just a copyright thing that you explain that to people. That terrified me. If you do not have a Whiteline website, if you're using one outside of Whiteline, which I don't think you can do, I'll have to check with Eric what exactly we've decided on that. But if there's anything like that, guys, you can go to this website, dmca.com, and you can go through and you can find out, it searches websites for content that is stolen, copywritten, whatever it might be. There's a bunch of different packages. Again, guys, I just took this class. I haven't really had a time to play with it, but there is a free version of this that you can use. And then there's also one that you can pay for if you're really concerned or if you're using a lot of other people. I think a very important thing to talk about, though, is do not use anything anybody has given you without written permission, basically CYA. You have to think like a lawyer. You have to think like terrified. And another thing that kind of goes in with this is, and I see this all the time, I never do it, but I've seen it 1,000 times. You cannot use old MLS photos to use on your new listing. You can't use old photos. Like it was listed 3 years ago and, yeah, the house kind of looks the same. I'm just going to download these from realtor.com and use them for my current listing. You cannot do that. That is another hugely finable offense because you're not accurately representing the house that you have for sale. So very, very careful with photos, guys. Very careful. If you want to look at DMCA to kind of, this is like an automatic process that'll allow you to check your stuff, and you can get a badge on your website, and then if you do get sued, they'll cover it or something. I don't know exactly how it works. So, Joey, do you have a question?
Yeah. Do you know how it works? Like with, say, Canva or something like that, and there's stock pictures, and you can create different things from their images and stuff like that. Like, because even our website has stock images that you could use as your background. Do you know anything about those?
Have you paid for the stock images? So there's royalty-free images, meaning, yeah, you can just use them. Mm-hmm. But guys, just because I found it on Google, like I searched Google, this is public domain. No, it is not.
Okay.
It is not public domain. If you go to something like Canva or there's a million websites out there like that. Mm-hmm. Make sure that it is a royalty-free image or that you have paid to use that image. Usually it's a nominal fee. It's a couple bucks or whatever it is. Our websites, like everything that runs through our websites, yes, we take care of. If you're using a whiteline.com website, if you're using, why can't I think of the name of the website builder right now? But whatever the Chime website, I mean, all of that we've gotten taken care of. But if you're doing something on your own, guys, it does not mean you can pull that down and use that. Okay. So be careful using images, where you get them from. Make sure that they are yours. Either you took them, you paid for them, and you're not just buying the rights to use them for a single use, you know, if you're going to distribute them in other ways. So ta-da, how's that for scary? $25,000 settle out a suit on photos that she was given. That blows my mind. I don't have an extra 25 grand sitting around. I wouldn't know what to do in that situation. That would suck. So she said it almost drove her out of business. She was at the point where she's like, I just don't even want to do it anymore. Another interesting story. When you make referrals to people or you take referrals from people, make sure you vet those people. Another scary story that came across in this entire thing, a guy took a referral. Somebody called him and said, hey, I can't do this client. Can you handle it? Sure, not a problem. It was a property management thing. No, the lady was a property manager. She sent him just a regular transaction. Well, the property manager lady that sent the referral was actually embezzling money in her property management company. Trek found out. They do a full investigative thing on her. She, of course, gets popped, $1 bajillion in fines, whatever. But because they saw that he got a referral from her, he ended up in a 4-year investigation, complete investigation from Trek to make sure he wasn't embezzling money either, even though it had nothing to do with the property management side. he got a 4-year rectal exam from Trek because he took a referral. Ladies and gentlemen, know who you are taking referrals from and know who you are taking referral or giving referrals to. You are now connected to them. If there's any money that changes hands on this thing, you are now connected. So don't just do random people. Make sure you vet, make sure you talk to them. If you need to talk to their broker, all that kind of stuff. So just, it's so terrifying because you really don't know who's a criminal and who's not, or who's doing stupid things and who's not. But you got to be careful. On that side of things, you tend to refer people because of market. I refer a lot of people to Corpus that want to buy I got a lot of friends that want to buy condos down in Port Aransas. I'm like, I can't help you. I don't know that market very well. There's also things about understanding, like that's a perfect example, coastal properties. There are so many more forms that you have to fill out because of coastal properties. Forms I'm not even really 100% aware of. Because of that, I'm not familiar with that market. A lot of people get fined for trying to help somebody in a market that they're not familiar with. So if I went down and tried, I have a friend of mine who wants to buy a condo right now in Corpus, and he just wants me to fill out the contract form. He's like, oh, we already got it figured out. I'm going to have you fill out the contract. I'm not filling out the contract. I'm not, because I don't know what other forms need to be. And he's a smart guy. So what I did, I said, hey, either you can talk to Brenda and you're probably gonna have to pay her some money, or here's the Trek website. Here's how you get your forms. You can fill it out yourself. But I can't put my name on this because I'm gonna screw it up. I don't know what coastal forms have to go into it. I wish I could tell you I did. I know some of them. I think I know them all. I definitely don't know for sure. I could call my broker, Eric, and I'm going to tell you right now, Eric probably doesn't know all the forms you have to do on coastal properties, right? So you just kind of have to be careful about your market. So whenever you refer somebody to a market, whenever somebody comes to you, make sure you know the market and that you can defend that and that you know it well enough to be able to fill out the forms correctly and make educated choices. Please do not. I have a good friend of mine that just sold a house in El Paso. She asked me if I wanted to help her sell her house in El Paso. I'd love to. That's a great commission. It was a $300,000 house. I'd love to make $9,000, but I don't know El Paso. I don't know anything about El Paso. Kind of scary. Be careful. Stay within your comfort zone, especially when it comes to markets. And I think the last thing I really wanted to talk about was signage. Here at White Line, we're incredibly lenient with what your signs look like. We don't care about colors. You can put whatever you want. I think y'all saw the other day that Eric just made a new business card. Guys, make sure that you get any signage that you decide to make approved. Just send it to Eric, send it to me, send it to somebody, and we will take a look at it and tell you if it's okay, because you don't want to be the one who goes out and prints all these signs, gets fined because of it, and then cannot use it. I'm showing you where our logos are. There's been some new logos released that you can take a look at. These are all the logos that we have. You can have as much fun with the logos as you want. You can do anything. The major rule on the logos is if you are part of a team, the team name must be registered. Okay, it must be registered with Trek. Home Sweet San Antonio, Hillary's team is registered. You got to make sure that it's registered. The other big thing is that you have to make sure that the brokerage's name, White Line Realty, is at least 50% of the contact information. So if you've got your phone number on there, and the phone number is 6 inches tall, White Line Realty has to be at least 3 inches tall. And it has to be on the final product, which means is if I'm printing a flyer and I put something at 50-point font, and then I put White Line Realty at 25 font, but when it prints out, it does not print out correctly, and those numbers are off, you can get fined. There was another terrible story about somebody getting fined because they put their name and phone number on an open house sign. It just said open house, Colin Corrington, here's my phone number. Well, that phone number constitutes contact information. The minute that's on there and it has to do with real estate, I have to put White Line Realty on there. They did not. Somebody turned them in, they got fined. Who turns these people in? I don't know. Now, can you just use an open house sign with an arrow? Yeah, that didn't have any contact information. Okay. So make sure that whenever all of signage, whatever it is, somebody just posted one the other day on our Facebook group about, it was a teal sign or something. The colors were really cool and all that, but it worked out because White Line Realty was on the logo. Was on there, was at least half the size. Guys, please be careful, because that is the stupidest thing to get popped for. The stupidest thing in the world to get popped for. So those are my big takeaways, guys. Short and sweet. Be careful of signage. Be careful who you refer to. Make sure you know your market. IABSs. Be very, very, very punctual with your paperwork, and just watch out. CYA. So just cover your rear end with whatever you do, guys. Document, disclose, over disclose, and then disclose some more. Make sure that everybody understands what is going on, and be careful and save everything for 4 years. That's the other thing. Save everything for 4 years. Those are my big ones. So any questions, comments, concerns that I have spoken about? Is everybody's appropriately terrified? You got to take the class. We can make it. I want to talk to Eric about making this mandatory. There is a provision that the brokerage can make certain classes mandatory. I'm honestly thinking about talking Eric into that, because being good and scared, I think, is a good way to live, because nobody needs to get a fine. I mean, who gets a fine for $3,500 because they dated something incorrectly, right? I mean, how punishing of an oversight is that? Just be careful. Just be careful. So, Joey, any questions, comments, concerns? Did I scare you?
Well, I always live in fear anyways. So this just reiterates why I do. Yeah.
Here's a good one.
That's intense.
Do you see this right here where I can use commercial use on this?
Mm-hmm.
So if I buy a flyer from this guy, I can use commercial use. It says right here. So if they ever come back and try and sue me for copyright infringement, I say, no, you said I could use it. So,
okay.
That's one of the ones I was looking for.
Yeah, I'm actually doing a search on the medium that I use to make sure that everything is as it should be.
It's terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying to me.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit concerned. I'm like racking my brain going, okay, what have I done?
Well, again, it goes back to the one thing though. It's hard to be nervous if your mind's on service. If you can show that your intent, if something does go sideways, I mean, your oversight could get you in trouble. So there's no room for oversight. You got to be dead on right. The second thing is if you can show it's like, no, I did everything I was supposed to do and I acted in the best interest of my client, then you should be fine, unless you just didn't do something that you should do. So like I said, I don't get too nervous. I act in the best interest of all of my clients. I really do. I'm not going to piddle and fart over a $500, commission adjustment because they wanted this price and I said this. It's just really important. I mean, to just be careful. That's why we have things like the Exhibit Alpha. If you're wholesaling properties, you need to make sure people clearly understand that you do not represent them. That's why we have people sign it. That's what it says. I do not represent you. I'm licensed, but I don't represent you. Do you understand that? I got a lot of questions last week. I think 2 different people called me saying that somebody did not want to be represented. And that's fine. You don't have to be represented, but I need you to sign a lot of documentations understanding that you're dancing alone. And that's fine. That's fine with us. So whatever it's going to be. So live scared. That's my best advice. Go take the class. Go take the class. It's such an easy class. It was one day. It was 6 hours. I think we went 9 to noon and then 1 to 4. And during the middle of the day, I don't do a whole lot. So I mean, usually not a whole lot of appointments, but where was I? I was looking for that.
Funny enough, I actually just got something from Candy Cook.
Did you?
Yeah, I've already taken the legal 1 and legal 2 that she's saying, so I'll see what else she She has.
Yeah, I want to take that. I need to take legal 1, legal 2, because you got to take that every 2 years or whatever it is.
Yeah, I already took my updates. I haven't taken the broker one because, quite frankly, I didn't know because if I should take it or not, because I'm not a broker, but I guess since it's open to everyone, I probably should, since it's going to impact
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, and a lot of people I think get that misinformation. You know what I mean about, hey, this is what I know and this is what I don't know. Oh, here's a perfect example of something. I took a CE class one time about commercial real estate. I was like, I want to learn a little bit more about commercial. I don't do any commercial. I don't really touch it, mess with it, know it. So I took a CE class on commercial. And I got to where it's like, I felt comfortable. I'm like, okay, I kind of get some of this stuff. And I had a really good friend of mine call me the other day, and he wants to rent out a building because he wants to open a store, and he's asking me all these questions. And I was like, hey, man, I'm limited on my knowledge on this. I said, I need you to talk to so-and-so. And I recommended him to somebody that is a commercial broker in New Braunfels, Texas, that knows the stuff inside and out. And trust me, I'd love to get the commission on whatever he's going to spend on that stupid display. You know what I mean? But I can't. I'd rather get the referral fee and not put myself in trouble and or put my friend in harm's way, because I mean, I'm ignorant to the fact I could overlook something that's going to end up costing him $1 million, and I don't want to be that person.
Yeah, but at the same time, and as the devil's advocate on this one, how are you supposed to get the knowledge and get that experience unless you sit here and take it on and have someone help you through it?
That's the other thing. You can have somebody who's an expert in something go through this with you. So if you're brand new and watching this and you're super, super green, call me, call Ryan, call Eric, call your team lead, call somebody who's done 100 transactions and have them walk you through your first couple transactions until you feel guilty or feel comfortable. Sorry, I'm reading this. Until you feel comfortable doing the different types of transactions. You may need, your team lead. I might say, hey, look, I need you to go talk to so-and-so, and you need to give them 1% of your commission because they're gonna have to wipe your butt, and you got to be okay with that, because the last thing you want is to get popped. Giving up 1% is way better than getting a $50,000 fine because you didn't know what you were doing. The fines are your responsibility, not ours. Sorry. I mean, this is crazy to me how many respondents pled guilty to a felony offense.
Do you recommend doing an LLC when it comes to protecting yourself and your assets as an individual agent?
So that came up in our class, and it is something that you can do. Mm-hmm. That's going to protect you from legal action outside of TREC, not within TREC. So if you do get sued, that'll get you inside of it. However, if you do create an LLC or even a DBA or anything like that, that is not your name, in your case, Joey Schusler, right? If you do not use your name, us at White Line Realty can only write you a check to the person that is licensed. Now, you can get your LLC licensed. You can register it with TREC and go through that whole thing. And now ABC LLC, we can pay them if they have a TREC number. Otherwise, we cannot pay you. Now, I have an LLC, but I take all of my commissions. And if I want to put the money in my LLC, I do that after it hits Colin's bank account, because Colin is what is registered through TREC. So you can do it. What I recommend it, you need to talk to a lawyer. The reason I have an LLC is because that's where I hold all my investment stuff. And I need that protection over there. I'm not too worried about it here because I do everything I can. This is an interesting one. This is so funny to me. Let's see. Here, pop quiz, since we got a little bit of time here. Oh, Respondent, while representing the buyer, paid a portion of his commissions to the buyer after closing as a loan under the table. Respondent did not notify his broker or obtain broker's written consent before closing. A check was paid to the buyer after closing. It was not disclosed in the settlement statement. What could he have done? This one's pretty clear on what he should have done, right? He should have gotten broker's consent.
I was just going to say, just talk to the broker and see if it's permissible.
Now, what's interesting, you can pay a portion of your commission to your buyer. Hey, look, I'm going to rebate you 1% of my commission. Thanks for using me. You can do that. It's your money. Spend it how you want, right? However, you have got to notify everybody, and it has got to be disclosed in the settlement statement. Everybody needs to know what's going on. Now, what I don't know for a fact is, can you loan money to people? I know when I had my Series 6, 63, and 26, that was a huge no-no. We were not allowed to lend money to anybody under any circumstances. As a real estate person, I don't know if we can or cannot. We'd have to look into that. And this is a time, like if you said, like Joey, if you called me and said, hey, Colin, I want to give some of my money to the person, that's fine. Don't care. Make sure it's on the settlement statement and I'll give you written permission. But if I want to do a loan, that word right there would trigger me where I'd have to make a call to Trek. Hey, Trek, can they do this? And they would say, yes, no, here's all the other stuff. Oh, by the way, this was killer. Did you know that agents have 2 days to respond to you? Any real estate agent on anything, if you email them an offer and you don't hear from them in 2 days, you can turn them into Trek.
Really?
That is under the ethics. That is under ethics.
Even in this market, even if they sit here and they say in their MLS, they sit here and say, no more offers, decision made this day, if it's not within that 2-day window.
Yeah, they got to respond in 2 days. And you can tell them, hey, look, and email their broker. Under the Trek ethics code, you have 2 days to respond to me. I haven't heard from him in 3. And she gave me the ethics code number. My God, I can't remember it.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So right here, respondent failed to provide within a reasonable information requested by the commission. So when the commission asks you for something and you don't respond in 2 days, boom, pop. I wonder what their fine was for that. Yeah, screw you. Like I'm telling you, you got 2 days to respond. Look at this. 9-page document because they failed to respond. Oh, $5,000. $5,000 because they didn't pay within 2 days, or they didn't respond within 2 days.
Oh.
Here we go. Violated the real estate by paying a portion of the commission to the buyer after the transaction is closed, as well. Oh, it's the same person, I guess. Felony offense, pled guilty. Ooh, failed to repay the commission for payment. Real estate recovery trust. Oh, another one, guys. Like half the class, I swear to God, was about the property management. For the love of God, do not do property management. Just don't. Just don't. We do not allow it at White Line Realty. Do not do it without telling us. Do not think, oh, well, I can do this. No, no, no. Don't do it. Yeah, he pled guilty to felony and did not notify the commission within 30 days. If you get a felony, guys, you got to tell the Trek. If not, you're going to get another fine. Or if I did it without a license. This is really kind of interesting, like all the things that people do.
It's, you know, and I find it fascinating because there's so many people that get into this business and then just don't think about the fact that you are licensed.
Oh, this last one right here. Technically, which I know I'm not good about this. I know I do it with all my listings. You need to do comparative market analysis for your properties. You have to show the people why you're suggesting the price. You have to provide that to them. This one says right here, he did not provide a written broker's price of opinion or comparative market analysis when negotiating a listing with the seller. Respondent acted negligently or incompletely by failing to obtain the party's initials, acknowledgement, and changes to the contract. Instead, respondent placed his own initials next to the changes. So here's what I can already tell you what happened in this one. This guy, Michael Young, went through there and they said, hey, we're going to renegotiate the contract. We want to make these changes. So instead of filling out a new contract and having his people sign it, he made the changes and initialed his stuff. You got to realize you're not the one binding to that contract. Your seller is, or buyer, or whomever. And so he tried to initial those himself. So they went through, did this full investigation. They said, oh, we couldn't help but notice you didn't provide them a CMA either. Bang, bang. Let's see how much Mr. Young paid for that. This ought to be fun. Let's see. How much was his fine? Well, $1,500. for failure to provide a CMA and initialing something he shouldn't have initialed.
When you provide the CMA, this is for my clarification, do you typically have the seller initial it or what? Because sometimes
No,
I thought it was just kind of like a presentation type thing.
It is a presentation thing, and you need to provide them a written copy of it. I wouldn't have them initial it. I don't think you have to. You just have to be able to provide it to them to show that you've done your homework on where you're coming up with that price.
Okay.
I guarantee this $1,500 is for initialing when his clients shouldn't have initialed.
Okay. Gotcha.
And I'm sure because he didn't do CMAs, they're going to make him do classes. He's got he must cooperate. Oh yeah, he's got to do 30 hours in contract law courses now.
Okay.
$1,500 and 30 hours of lesson because you put an initial instead of letting your client do it.
That's fun.
And guys, I'm telling you, the reason why he got popped was probably because of the money. They probably came back and said, I did not say I was going to do that amount. And they said, oh, too bad. You're in trouble. Kind of interesting. So be careful out there. See, the good news is if we go over mine, I don't think I have any. See, I'm clean. Following the rules. All right, enjoy your lunch. I got to go show a whole bunch of houses out in Bernie. So I'll be out in your neck of the woods. All right, have a good one.